We all know the iconic images: George Washington crossing the Delaware, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the Minutemen at Lexington and Concord. These are the pillars of the American Revolution, etched into our collective memory. But what if the story we've been told is only a fraction of the truth? What if the triumph of liberty was built upon the backs of countless individuals whose names rarely appear in our history books? Today we journey beyond the well-trodden paths into the hidden corners of a conflict that birthed a nation, to uncover the forgotten heroes and the surprising sacrifices that truly shaped America. The cry of no taxation without representation echoed across the colonies, a powerful slogan that rallied many to the cause. But the roots of revolution ran deeper than just taxes on tea or stamps. For ordinary farmers, artisans, and merchants, it was about a fundamental shift in their way of life, an increasing sense of distant, arbitrary power encroaching on their daily freedoms. Life in the colonies was tough, demanding, and self-reliant. The British Crown's attempts to assert tighter control, to dictate trade, and to quarter troops felt like an assault on their very identity. This wasn't just about abstract political theory, it was about bread on the table, the right to speak one's mind, and the feeling that a vast ocean separated them not just geographically, but ideologically from a distant king. This profound discontent ignited a spark, leading to open conflict and ushering in an era where everyone, regardless of their station, was forced to choose a side. When we imagine the American Revolution, our minds often conjure images of men in uniform, muskets blazing on the battlefield. But to truly understand the struggle for independence, we must look beyond these conventional portrayals and recognize the profound, often dangerous contributions of women. They were not merely passive bystanders, they were active participants, strategists, and vital cogs in the revolutionary machine, defying societal norms and risking everything for the cause of liberty. One of the most astonishing stories is that of Deborah Sampson. In 1782, desperate to serve, she disguised herself as a man named Robert Shirtliff and enlisted in the Continental Army. For over a year, she served with distinction, enduring battles, injuries, and disease, all while keeping her true identity a secret. She even patched herself up after being wounded, extracting a musket ball from her own leg to avoid detection. Her incredible courage and resilience make her a true testament to the hidden female warriors of the era, a woman who literally fought for freedom in disguise. Beyond the battlefield, women played indispensable roles as camp followers. Often wives, mothers, or daughters of soldiers, they performed essential services, cooking, cleaning, mending uniforms, and nursing the sick and wounded. While their presence might seem ordinary, their work directly supported the Army's ability to fight. They endured the same harsh conditions, the same shortages, and the same dangers as the soldiers themselves, often with young children in tow. Their tireless support was a critical, unsung pillar of the war effort. But not all women's contributions were so overtly visible. Many operated in the shadows, becoming crucial intelligence gatherers and spies. Anna Strong, a member of the Culper spy ring, devised an ingenious system for signaling the presence of British ships using laundry on her clothesline, a black petticoat for specific ships, handkerchiefs for their number. These subtle signals, invisible to the enemy, provided vital information to Washington. Other women, using their assumed innocence or access to British officers, overheard conversations, copied documents, or smuggled messages, risking execution if discovered. Their quiet bravery saved countless lives and influenced critical military decisions. Then there were the women who actively challenged British authority with their pens and their voices. Mercy Otis Warren, a brilliant playwright and historian, used her satirical plays and political writings to criticize British policies and champion the patriot cause. She influenced public opinion, often writing anonymously, and later became one of the first historians of the Revolution, providing a vital female perspective on the events. Her intellectual courage was as potent a weapon as any musket, shaping the very ideas that fueled the Revolution. From running family farms and businesses in the absence of their fighting husbands, to actively participating in boycotts of British goods, women kept the colonial economy alive. They organized spinning bees to produce homespun cloth, symbols of defiance against British imports. Their collective economic power, often underestimated, was a significant form of resistance, demonstrating their commitment to self-sufficiency and independence. The domestic sphere, far from being separate, became a critical front in the economic war. The legacy of these revolutionary women extends far beyond the war itself, challenging traditional gender roles and laying groundwork for future generations. The American Revolution, at its heart, was a fight for liberty and self-determination. Yet woven into this noble cause was a profound and haunting contradiction: the institution of slavery. For hundreds of thousands of African Americans, enslaved and free, the promise of all men are created equal was a cruel paradox.
Yet, incredibly, this period became a crucial turning point for many, offering perilous, often broken paths to personal freedom, forcing them to navigate a war where both sides offered emancipation, though with vastly different motives. The very first casualty of the Boston Massacre in 1770 was Crispus Attucks, a man of African and Native American descent. His death, a symbol of early defiance against British tyranny, highlights the immediate presence and involvement of black individuals in the escalating tensions. 5 years later, at the Battle of Bunker Hill, Peter Salem, a formerly enslaved man, fought bravely. These early acts of heroism set a precedent. African Americans were willing to fight and die for a freedom that was not yet fully extended to them. Both the British and the Continental forces, desperate for manpower, issued proclamations offering freedom to enslaved people who would join their ranks. Lord Dunmore's proclamation in 1775, issued by the Royal Governor of Virginia, promised freedom to enslaved people who joined the British. Thousands flocked to the British lines, seeing this as their best, perhaps only chance at liberation. For them, loyalty was not to a flag, but to the promise of emancipation. They fought bravely in segregated units, like Dunmore's Ethiopian Regiment, often suffering greatly from disease and the harsh realities of war. On the Patriot side, while George Washington initially resisted enlisting black soldiers, the dire need for troops eventually forced a change in policy. By the war's end, approximately 5,000 African Americans, enslaved and free, had served in the Continental Army and state militias. Some fought in integrated units, others in all-black companies, like the 1st Rhode Island Regiment, which distinguished itself in battles. For many, service was a gamble, a desperate hope that their bravery would translate into personal freedom after the war, a hope that was tragically often deferred or denied. Beyond direct combat, enslaved African Americans played crucial support roles, building fortifications, driving wagons, cooking, and acting as guides. Their intimate knowledge of the land, their physical labor, and their often unrecognized service were indispensable to both sides. Perhaps most famously, James Armistead Lafayette, an enslaved African American, posed as a runaway slave to infiltrate British General Cornwallis's headquarters, providing vital intelligence that directly contributed to the decisive victory at Yorktown. His story is one of profound courage and strategic genius. The aftermath of the war was a period of both hope and profound disappointment for African Americans. While some black loyalists found new lives in Nova Scotia or Sierra Leone, many who fought for the Americans found their promises unfulfilled, struggling for decades to gain freedom. Yet the revolutionary ideals, however contradictory, sparked an undeniable movement. The war created the first significant population of free black communities in America, laying the groundwork for the future abolitionist movement. Their presence and their sacrifices force us to confront the complex legacy of the revolution, acknowledging both its promise and its painful failures. While colonists fought for independence and African Americans sought liberation, another critical, often tragic narrative unfolded in the shadows of the American Revolution, the fate of Native American nations. For centuries they had navigated the complex politics of European colonial powers, trying to preserve their sovereignty and ancestral lands. The revolution didn't offer them a clear path to freedom. Instead, it plunged them into a devastating conflict, where alliances were fraught, trust was fragile, and the ultimate outcome, regardless of who won, often meant further encroachment on their homelands. For many native nations, the choice of allegiance was agonizing. They saw both the British and the Americans as threats, yet inaction was not an option. Some, like the powerful Iroquois Confederacy in the north, were tragically divided. The Mohawk, Seneca, Cayuga, and Onondaga largely sided with the British, seeing them as the lesser of two evils. Conversely, other nations like the Oneida and Tuscarora chose the patriot cause, creating an unprecedented internal conflict within their own people. This internal strife, fueled by external pressures, led to devastating civil wars within and between Native communities, weakening them significantly. The consequences for Native Americans were often brutal. Both sides engaged in scorched earth tactics, destroying villages, crops, and traditional hunting grounds. George Washington himself ordered destructive campaigns against Iroquois lands, aiming to break their power. These punitive expeditions, like the Sullivan Expedition of 1779, systematically destroyed dozens of Iroquois towns, driving thousands from their homes. For them, the revolution was a war of dispossession, a fight for their very existence. The Treaty of Paris in 1783, which officially ended the war, was signed without any Native American representation. Their lands were simply ceded by Britain to the new United States, without their consent or input. This act of blatant disregard set a grim precedent, signaling that despite their alliances or sacrifices, Native American sovereignty was irrelevant to the new nation. The American Revolution marked a catastrophic turning point for Native American nations, intensifying the pressures on their lands and paving the way for policies that would lead to systematic removal. Meanwhile, another crucial segment of the colonial population, the Loyalists, also faced a tragic fate. These were the men and women who, despite the growing unrest, remained steadfast in their allegiance to the British crown. They weren't necessarily villains. Their motives were complex, rooted in deeply held convictions, economic ties, and a profound fear of anarchy. Estimates suggest that between a quarter and a third of the colonists remained loyal to Britain, seeing themselves as defending legitimate authority against an illegal rebellion. Life as a loyalist became increasingly perilous as the revolution gained momentum. They faced severe persecution, ostracization, and often outright violence from patriot mobs. Their property was seized, their businesses boycotted, and many were tarred and feathered or assaulted. When British forces controlled an area, loyalists often rallied to their side, forming their own militias and fighting alongside British regulars. The brutal skirmishes in the southern colonies, in particular, often pitted patriot against loyalist neighbors in vicious and personal conflicts. With the patriot victory, the fate of the loyalists was sealed. Thousands were forced to abandon their homes and property, often fleeing with little more than the clothes on their backs. Approximately 100,000 loyalists emigrated from the newly formed United States, many settling in Canada, particularly Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, where they founded new communities and shaped Canadian identity. Their forced exile represents one of the largest migrations in American history, a poignant testament to the cost of choosing the losing side. The story of the Loyalists adds crucial nuance to our understanding of the Revolution, reminding us that fundamental shifts in power are rarely simple, and that patriotism is often in the eye of the beholder. While grand battles captured headlines, another crucial war was being fought in the shadows, a war of whispers, coded messages, and daring deception. Espionage played a far more critical role in the American Revolution than many realize, often influencing critical decisions, saving lives and tipping the scales in favor of the struggling patriots. George Washington himself understood the immense value of intelligence, personally overseeing and directing several spy networks like the famous Culper spy ring. At the heart of the Culper Ring were figures like farmer Abraham Woodhull and merchant Robert Townsend. Anna Strong used her laundry on the clothesline as a signal system, and Caleb Brewster ferried messages across the Long Island Sound in daring moonlight voyages. The risks were immense. Capture meant certain death, as exemplified by the young patriot spy Nathan Hale, who famously declared, "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country," before his execution. Yet their courage ensured the flow of vital information, directly contributing to strategic successes like the Battle of Yorktown. And while adults waged war, the American Revolution was also a profoundly impactful experience for the thousands of children living through it. Their innocence was shattered by the realities of conflict, yet many displayed remarkable resilience, courage, and even played unexpected roles. Children witnessed unimaginable brutality, saw their homes destroyed, and lived with the pervasive fear of what tomorrow might bring. Boys as young as 12 served as drummers or fifers, their music vital for troop movements. Others became powder monkeys, carrying gunpowder to cannons during battle, a perilous job where a single spark could mean instant death. Girls also found ways to contribute. Some became unofficial messengers, their unassuming presence allowing them to pass through enemy lines unnoticed, carrying vital information. The famous story of Sybil Ludington, sometimes called the female Paul Revere, illustrates this extraordinary courage. At just 16 years old, in 1777, she rode over 40 miles through the night to warn patriot militia of an impending British attack, saving countless lives. The war also created thousands of child refugees, displaced and often orphaned, serving as a stark reminder of the widespread human cost of the Revolution. With the Treaty of Paris in 1783, the American Revolution officially ended, but the end of fighting was far from the end of the struggle. The fledgling United States faced immense challenges: economic instability, internal divisions, and the monumental task of forming a cohesive nation from 13 independent, often squabbling states. The Articles of Confederation, the first governing document, proved too weak, leading to widespread economic depression and social unrest, culminating in Shays' Rebellion, which starkly illustrated the fragility of the new republic. Despite these profound challenges and unaddressed injustices, the revolutionary generation embarked on the monumental task of crafting a more perfect union. The Constitutional Convention of 1787 brought together brilliant minds to forge a new framework for governance, laying the groundwork for a stable republic. The untold stories of the American Revolution remind us that history is a living, breathing narrative, constantly reevaluated and enriched by new perspectives. The fight for independence was not just a grand unified march to freedom, but a complex tapestry woven with the threads of diverse experiences, of women defying expectations, of African Americans struggling for true liberty, of native nations fighting for survival, and of loyalists clinging to their convictions.
By embracing these forgotten heroes and hidden truths, we gain a richer, more authentic understanding of America's origins. It's a story that is both inspiring and sobering, reminding us that the ideals of liberty and justice are not static achievements, but ongoing aspirations, shaped by the struggles of every generation, past and present. The revolution in its truest sense was fought by all,